Standing at a staggering 8,000 feet, Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world. And for many, that fact alone is enough reason to take on this behemoth of a mountain, in a quest to reach its peak, the highest point on the planet. The sheer size of the mountain already tells you that climbing it is no mere feat. Yet, since Edmund Hillary, a New Zealander, and his guide, Tenzing Norgay, became the first men to reach the peak of Mount Everest, over 4,000 people have successfully reached the top of the mountain. While thousands more have tried and given up, for the sake of their lives, many have also died navigating the treacherous ranges of Everest. The statistics make for some horrific reading. In the last century, 305 people have lost their lives in their quest to emulate Edmund Hillary. About 30% of the people who died climbing the mountain were buried under tons of cascading snow. Another 23% fell to their deaths, and 1 in 5 of the people who have died on Everest painfully succumbed to acute mountain sickness and a host of other deadly killers. Although climbing Mount Everest has become safer in recent times, it is still the deadliest mountain to climb. But that has not deterred thousands of people from trying, even though the authorities in Nepal only hand out a few hundred permits every year. Even at that, those numbers are relatively high. Authorities in Nepal are careful to prevent overcrowding on the mountain ranges, concerned that this could stretch the safety resources available to the authorities. These resources include safety equipment, such as oxygen masks, climbing ropes, and other safety gear. But, while those who achieve the impossible, by reaching the highest peak on Earth's surface, are celebrated for their perseverance, strength, and incredible achievement, not much is said about the treacherous, deadly terrain of Mount Everest. Speaking to some of the brave people who have managed to reach Everest's peak, and return to tell the story, you'll discover from their words the dark side of Mount Everest, that part of the climb, which is usually not spoken about. Along the course of the climb, is an area of the mountain referred to by climbers as the death zone. In this region, the air around is so thin, you'll find yourself gasping for air, if you did not come equipped with an oxygen tank. The journey to the peak of the mountain and back takes about 5 to 6 weeks in total. For most of the journey, you'll spend lots of time trekking, and getting your body to acclimatize to the treacherous environment. Unlike many other high-altitude climbs, scaling Mount Everest is next to impossible without supplemental oxygen. And even at that, nothing can get you prepared for what you'll experience in the death zone. Many are left in a state of delirium in this region, and some never make it back. Others realize that's the farthest they can allow themselves to get to, and they make a U-turn back to ground level, choosing their lives over the all-too-real risk of death. Even if you are blessed with super strong lungs, so that you can survive the death zone, when you reach there, you'll still have to battle Everest's many dangerous crevices. If you choose to go ahead with your journey, you'll be left with no other option but to traverse the crevices using horizontal ladders. At the beginning of the journey, you'd come across crevices that would require only a single ladder to scale through. And then, you'd encounter bigger crevices, requiring 2 ladders merged back to back. As if that's not scary enough, as the journey goes on, you'd have to scale some crevices with 3 ladders joined together. It's hard to anticipate the complexity of obstacles that you'd encounter on Mount Everest. Overcoming them would require some of the most ingenious tricks and techniques you'd never come up with in your entire life. And even when you figure out a way to go over these crevices, you have to summon the courage to climb horizontal ladders, with crampons on, without missing a step and falling to a horrific death. To guide you through this perilous journey are native Himalayans, who spend their entire lives on the borders of Nepal and Tibet, and are renowned for their superb mountaineering skills. They are known to climbers as Sherpas. And while every climber wears safety equipment, like helmets and safety ropes, these Sherpas accompany climbers with none of these safety equipment. They cross crevices using ladders, but without wearing any safety clips or helmets. Unfortunately, this foolhardiness has led to the deaths of a few of them, a lesson that every non-Sherpa climber is told time and again, to emphasize the need to adopt every safety guideline given by the authorities. While the most common deaths of climbers on Mount Everest are caused by falls, many have also died from altitude sickness. When altitude sickness sets in, climbers begin to feel dizzy, suffer from nausea, and have minor headaches. Initially, it doesn't feel threatening, but when left untreated, altitude sickness could result in cerebral or pulmonary edema, and most times, this is fatal. Climbers who suffer from altitude sickness are immediately instructed to descend rapidly. This is the only known cure for this condition. To prevent altitude sickness, climbers are asked to spend a few nights at base camp to acclimatize, before they begin the arduous journey up the mountain. Perhaps one of the most scary things about climbing Mount Everest is that it feels like you're walking in the middle of a desert, with no destination in sight, only that this desert is finger-numbing cold and covered in snow. This mountain is humongous. And it's very difficult to mentally deal with its sheer size at first. To aid the navigation of climbers, the mountain is divided into several camps. But it is impossible to catch a glimpse of, say, Camp 3, until you arrive at Camp 2, that's how huge this mountain is. And to see Camp 4, you'd have to be on your way up, around the sides of the mountain. According to a few expert mountain climbers, who have reached the summit of Mount Everest, in terms of technicality, Everest is not the most difficult mountain to climb. Climbing Everest is not the typical up and down mountain climb that many people would be accustomed to. That said, the terrain is still very dangerous. The mountain itself seems to be fighting against you, throwing layers of ice and rocks your way, as you climb. You could see a boulder the size of a car coming down at you from the top of the mountain, what is a truly frightening sight to imagine. But this wasn't always the case. Everest has been getting drier over the years, no thanks to global warming and climate change. A warmer climate around the mountain means that the amount of snowfall in the region has reduced over the years, leading to the melting and shedding of layers of ice, and huge rocks losing their grip on the mountain. As such, navigating the terrain of Everest requires lots of skill and substantial mountain climbing experience. As if battling the difficult terrain, traversing crevices, and coping in an environment with ultra-thin air isn't enough, Mount Everest's ultimate tool to instill fear in you is the several dead bodies littered all over the mountain tops. Beyond Camp 4, and closer to the summit of the mountain, this area of the mountain is so high up that it is a huge task to carry yourself there in the first place. Climbers approach the summit with very little extra load, as only the necessities are required. Because of this, if a person dies at the summit, there is very little chance that the body will be recovered from there. And because some climbers have unfortunately died at the summit, on arriving there, you'll be greeted with a few dead bodies, whose skin have been protected by the ice around it. It is a haunting sight to behold, but most climbers choose to ignore it, and focus on their achievement in reaching the mountain's peak. Cruel as it might sound, for some, that is their way of coping with the fear and negativity, by ignoring the haunting sight to stay positive ahead of the equally difficult journey down the mountain. The whole aim of climbing Mount Everest is to reach the summit, and enjoy a thrilling sense of fulfillment, knowing that you have overcome one of the most daunting physical tasks known to man. But on finally reaching the summit, it could feel depressingly anticlimactic. Standing at the peak of Mount Everest is not the tranquil ending many think it is. In the words of a successful climber, it feels like a horror movie. First, you are left battling with the lack of oxygen at the summit, that you almost feel like passing out at any second. Then, there's the hostile, windy weather, threatening to knock you off your feet at any moment, with a whistling sound that sends chills down your spine. You'll probably never have that sense of fulfillment you crave, until you are out of the mountain, recuperating in your home. Yet, as difficult as the journey to the top of the highest mountain in the world is, not only are more people indicating interest in reaching its peak, but they are also willing to part away with some £40,000. That's the average amount of money required to plan a trip to the top of the world. But even with that amount of money at your disposal, it is still no guarantee that you would be one of the lucky few, who would be selected by the tourism companies to travel to Mount Everest. With that amount of investment put into making a trip to the highest peak in the world, the pressure of failing to reach that mountain peak can play on your mind. And this pressure is partly to blame for some having dangerously risked, or even lost their lives in their quest to conquer Mount Everest. Despite the perils that lie in wait at the world's highest mountain, more people than ever before are finding success in their attempt to reach its peak. From all indications, the quest to conquer Mount Everest will continue to thrill thousands of mountain climbing enthusiasts from all over the world. Hopefully, the journey to its peak will become safer as time goes on.